How you guys doing, ProGuides family? My name is Nathan Ng, and I'd like to welcome you back for another video. Today we'll be going over the 10 signs you will reach Global Elite. We know a lot of you guys are trying really hard to get there, and because of that, we would really like to point out what you're doing right. So knowing these will maybe help you guys be a little bit proud of yourself and even use it in your coming games. But before we do that though, it's of course time for the question of the day. Today's question of the day is, when do you think you'll reach Global? I know back then I was trying my hardest to get there. I thought it was going to be done within the first month of playing. It didn't really end up being that fast, but I'm still pretty proud of how quickly I managed to improve. But what about you? When do you think you'll reach Global Elite? Anyway, let's get started on why you're going to reach Global. Starting with the first reason, that being, you are always trying to have an impact on the round. The most important thing when trying to carry your team or trying to rank up in general is trying to have an impact in each and every round. If you aren't actively trying to impact the round in a positive way, then that doesn't really mean that you won't win, but it will mean that it wasn't because of you. If you are a player that is always trying to have an impact on each round, well, a positive impact, then you will more likely than not rank up really fast. So if you're a player that deserves Global, or at least think that you do, make sure and try not to hide in the corner and instead trying to go out there and fight for the round. If you want to rank up and rank up fast, then you'll need to have a focus on impact. And honestly guys, your kill death ratio doesn't necessarily reflect that. So if you're one of those players that doesn't really care about their KD and actively thinks about how you're going to win the round, then that's great and you'll probably end up ranking up. Another sign that you're going to reach Global is that you're selfless and you're willing to go in first. The willingness to go in first, or just a general idea of not minding to die for your team in order to trade a kill, is really important skill to have. If you're ever on a decent team, there will always be an entry fragger. The goal of the entry fragger, unlike the name implies, isn't to get an entry frag, but instead is to create space for the rest of the team so they can get an easy trade and map control. Entry fraggers are the ones that take initiative and make plays happen. And of course, even though there isn't really real roles in your regular matchmaking games, there's always going to be somebody that needs to go in first. If you can't be that person for your team and you're willing to die so that your team can get the trade, maybe that is an amazing sign that you might reach Global. And if you never reach Global with it, you're just a really good teammate to play with. Something else that isn't really obvious at all, but is still an amazingly big deal, is your playstyle. Of course, there's nothing wrong with playing more passive as long as it doesn't get out of hand, of course, but playing more aggressive is a lot better if you want to improve and if you're confident in your aim. Playing aggressive means that you'll be making decisions in a short amount of time. This ultimately means that it's easier to pick up mistakes. If you played really passively, it's hard to remember all that you did, and even if you do decide to watch your demo after the game, which is something that we definitely recommend, then it's still really difficult to see where you went wrong. If you, like most people, don't though, and only really play games, then it really becomes near impossible to fix all the little mistakes that you made. People tend to remember how their fight went and what happened shortly before they died, but not everything around it or leading up to it. If you just played a round where all you did was run out on A ramp and try to fight a guy, it's a lot simpler to say, maybe I should have flashed this, and also my crosshair placement was a little bit off. And trust me, this is a lot easier to remember than all the things that you did wrong in almost 2 minutes of that round. That basically means that if you play more aggressively, your mistakes are both easier to remember and more easy to watch over, as there will be a lot less demo to review. And at the same time, you'll be able to learn from your mistakes faster and thus improve more rapidly as well. Also, not having the attitude of thinking that you're an elo hell or hard suck is really important. I know that countless players that believe that for whatever reason they are stuck in their rank and unable to rank up. Having this mindset is not only toxic, but will ultimately become true if you continue to believe it, almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. There's no such thing as being stuck in elo hell, and there's definitely no way that you're truly stuck at your rank that there's nothing that you can improve upon. Getting rid of this mindset is therefore the next step to reaching Global Elite. Something else that will really hold you back that we notice, especially with the same people that think that they're in elo hell, is that your teammates are the reason that you're not ranking up. Coming in at first place of the worst mindsets that you have is believing that you are flawless, and it's just that your teammates that are the exact opposite, useless. There is an insurmountable amount of players with tremendous egos that really truly believe that the only reason that they are stuck in the current rank is because their teammates are bad. Not only is this usually not the case, but it's also a great way of blocking yourself from improving because you'll never be able to count out your own mistakes. If this is a mindset that you have, get it out of your head right now and seriously do it quickly. It's not true and it's definitely holding you back. And sometimes, yes, it is your teammates, but I promise you guys, if you end up playing consistently, you're just going to be climbing. And that brings us up to our next point. You reflect on your own strengths and weaknesses. By reflecting on your strengths, you can see what you're strong at and really abuse it. By focusing on your weaknesses, you should also focus on what you should avoid doing. By doing both, you'll become good at both and a better, more efficient player. The best way of doing this is, of course, by watching your own demos. So if you're already doing that, it's even better with a coach, and I recommend you guys check out ProGuides.com to find one. Being able to spend time on the game outside of just playing brings us to our next point, and that is just being able to study the game. Back when I was really trying to improve, I'd spend a lot of time either playing CSGO or watching content on it. I'd usually spend my time on YouTube watching all kinds of tutorials, like this one for example, so if you're watching ProGuides already, then I think you're already on the right step. That's not even biased, it's not like they're paying me to say this. Kinda. I've always enjoyed watching pro games, specifically looking at their strategies. Afterwards, I'd watch the demos of the player I felt played the best, and before I went to sleep, I'd spend my time watching FPL. Of course, to some of you, this might sound like a little bit much, and yeah, honestly, it is. But I was really passionate about the game, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching content. Soon enough, I'd be playing against players with maybe 4 or 5 times my hour count, and it felt pretty good. Of course, you don't have to be as extreme as I was, but spending time outside of just playing and studying the game will really help you improve faster. I don't even want to say studying because that has a negative connotation. If you want to get good at CSGO and you're just passionate about improving, then watching streams and pro games is definitely the way to go. Another great, no, actually amazing sign is that if you're interested in Counter-Strike theory. CSGO theory is honestly such a broad subject, and there's so many things that you should consider. It's actually so complicated that no team really plays the same way, and each in-game leader has their own style. If you often find yourself thinking about how you should approach the game and how you should consistently win rounds, then you're doing something right. You're working on your game sense. Maybe you've even shown some interest in getting on a team yourself, and that's not just because your matchmaking teammates suck, but because you find it an interesting experience. Getting on a team and working on strategies, seeing why certain things work and how you can manipulate rotations can really be rewarding, and not only because it'll be fun, but also because you'll be a much better CS player. CSGO is much more than just clicking heads and doing so quickly, and at the moment the CSGO pro scene is actually lacking a lot of good IGLs with new ideas, so if that sounds like something that is interesting that you could fill, then you're gonna get pretty far. You'll be great on a team, and at a point, getting global would probably be a breeze. Risk versus reward is a concept not only in the real world, but also in Counter-Strike. In Counter-Strike, it means that you can decide whether a decision was smart or not by considering the risk versus the reward. If a play is highly risky, let's say swinging an opper, and it doesn't really give a good reward, then let's say getting a single kill on radio control on nuke, then it probably isn't worth it. But if it's something like stacking a site on an eco round, your risk will be low because you probably weren't really winning the round anyway, and your reward will be very high, namely winning the round. So basically, you want to do things that will yield you a better reward for the higher risk that you're taking, and you don't want to take risks that will give you a low reward. Understanding the idea of how risky versus how rewarding decisions are will take time to understand and will come with experience and time. But if it's something that you're already considering and thinking of, then you're probably going to be improving really quickly. And last sign that we're going to be going over is that you practice your mechanics. Practicing your mechanics is very much the key to getting high ranks in CS. You can have an amazing mind for the game and know all there is to it, but if you can't put your crosshair on people, then it's over anyway. Unlike other skills like utilizing risk reward or developing game sense, you can't really just get good mechanics by watching videos or demos. Instead, you're just going to have to get out there, hop onto aimbots or deathmatch, and then grind. With that being said, yes, more practice is better, but don't burn yourself out. Spending 10 hours in a single day practicing is a lot less effective than spending 20 minutes for 10 days. Therefore, getting a practice schedule and then sticking to it is really effective. We'd recommend you guys always start your day off with some warm-up for about 5 to 30 minutes on aimbots. Then just as you're playing your games normally, and then afterwards going back to practice your aim. Make sure that you spend enough time working on both your flicks and tracking skills, and while you're at it, don't forget to go over your movement skills a little bit either, as that can never hurt. The reason we'd advise doing your practice schedule after your games is because you don't really want to tire out your aim and focus before you start your games. If you do that, your aim will improve just as much, but in games you'll perform worse. I know this sounds kind of counterintuitive, but at least get a warm-up before your games, but practice your scheduling after the games. Let's go ahead and compare it to lifting. If you have to lift a really heavy weight for a competition of some sorts, then you really wouldn't be doing training before either. You'll just be warming up your muscles. Otherwise, you would have spent most of your energy during that session already, meaning that you can't perform as well in the competition. With aiming, it's just quite the same. Make sure you warm up, but you're not necessarily practicing your aim, just not before your competitive games. Well guys, that's gonna be it for now. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. So if you did, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to our channel. While you're at it, make sure you head over to ProGuides.com as well, as we've got some of the best coaching available, so don't let this opportunity slip by. Aside from that though, you can also access the one and only Simples Master Course to Counter-Strike, so go ahead and check that out. With all of that, I hope you guys stay safe and healthy and have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.